Welcome to Season 4, Episode 10, Our Garbage is a Compost Bin.
That welcome has been done before, Jen.
I know, it's a good one. I'm recycling. An old intro, so deal with it.
Ugh, okay.
Yes, but what we mean by that is that we have 5 separate areas for waste in our kitchen alone. And also, fruit flies.
That doesn't sound good. We are Red Weather Christians. I'm Steve.
And I'm Jen.
And we are expats living in Spain, trying to restore faith in humanity, one story at a time.
On this season of Red Weather Christians, we'll be highlighting the feel-good stories that make us smile and remind us of the good in humanity.
We hope that as you listen, you become more mindful of the good, and if you don't see it, you do it.
Or you be it. Okay, yes, we're talking about fruit flies. This is how we're starting our episode.
But that doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't.
We're supposed to focus on the good.
Well, we're noticing the bad, so then we can shift and focus on the good. So, fruit flies. Okay, we have had to deal with fruit flies lately. Partly because a piece of fruit was rotting in our fruit bowl, but also our garbages.
Yes, and by garbages, it's only really 2 separate garbages. Normal one under the sink and another one around the corner. But the other bins are all recycling.
Yes, so we have a container for paper, cardboard products. We have another container for plastic, metal. What else goes in that one? That's basically it. That's it. But there's a lot that goes into that one. That's a big container. And then we have an area. We don't have a container for this, but we have an area of our counter devoted to glass. And what else? And then our just regular garbages.
Right, but everything essentially is being recycled.
Right. So our garbage, our actual garbage, is more like a compost bin.
Everything in there attracts these beautiful, wonderful fruit flies.
Oh, I hate them.
So many of them.
Well, I had gotten them under control completely. Because I started seeing like a couple here and there, and I was like, oh, absolutely not. I have lived in Florida. I know how to deal with this. So immediately I got to work. I got some glass jars that I didn't need anymore. I probably took them off of the counter where I was going to recycle them. And I filled them with a little bit of water. I added some apple cider vinegar, the good kind with the mother. And then I added a little bit of dish soap and I shook it up so that there were bubbles. And I placed one in the areas that are conducive to getting fruit flies.
And I haven't kicked one over yet.
Oh my gosh, I know. I was like, who's going to kick this over? Because 2 of them are on the floor. Anyway, so the fruit fly situation completely under control. I was feeling good about myself.
Was
Is the operative word. But then what happened first? Something was rotting in the...
We just had too much fruit waste, like apple cores, banana peels. I mean, we ate too much fruit and it just attracted fruit flies and...
Yeah. Oh, but then I found an orange that was in the bowl and I pulled it out. I'm like, what's this little hole? Like the fruit flies were all really gathered on this one particular orange. And there's this little tiny hole. I'm like, well, whatever. I'm going to just cut that off. And then I'm going to eat the rest of the orange. Because, waste not, want not. Steve is grimacing right now. Normally, the rules would be reversed. So I'm like cutting it into slices for myself to eat. And I get closer to the center of it. And there are maggots.
I mean, we'll just call them worms. Maggots usually grow on meat.
Okay, they were maggots. I know what maggots look like, okay? I have tried to make my own sauerkraut. I know what maggots look like.
Those are gross.
Oh, gosh, failed experiment. Anyway, so then I dry heaved a few times and threw the orange away. But then it's just throwing it away into the basically compost bin that is in our kitchen with a lot of fruit flies there too. So, it was just a mess.
Yeah, we need to take out that garbage. That needs to happen. But the point of that is, here are 2 things that I take away from that. If maggots or any sort of insect is still interested in the fruit, that means it's probably more real than a heavily pesticided fruit.
Okay. Sure.
That they can survive on that fruit. It wasn't genetically modified to resist pests from the inside.
Well, I guess that is a good point. Yes, the maggots were having a field day inside that orange that I was going to eat.
The other point is that all of that garbage that we're talking about, because we have these other bins for all the other types of garbage that are going to get recycled, the garbage becomes, as Jen already mentioned, a compost bin. It's already starting to return to organic matter or soil.
Yes. Yeah. So the flies are super interested in that. All kinds of delicious smells going on. And this is another reason I love that we don't eat a lot of meat, because, oh my God, I mean, we've had a couple of times I've made chicken, and then like the waste of the chicken goes into the garbage or whatever. Now that is the worst smell. That is worse than fruit.
Okay,
tangent. Sorry.
What's good about that, Jen? We're focusing on the good.
Moving on. So what we're talking about in today's episode are some differences between Spain and the United States, because that's the other place that we've had the most experience with, that we think estadounidenses might think are reasons to boo.
Yeah, electrical outlets, they're different. Boo! I actually haven't researched any of the differences between why this voltage is better or worse than the US voltage.
All I know is the dryers do not work well here, so...
I know the plugs are physically different.
They're kind of fat. They're fatty McGee's here. Let's go through some other differences that people might just assume are bad things. So we talked about the multiple containers for waste, but we actually think that this is a good thing because Spain does have a huge focus on an effort in recycling, which we love.
We love so much because all of the garbage bags that I've used are made of recycled materials.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, this is another difference that we have noticed in Spain that could be perceived as annoying.
Only when the bag rips from the bottom would it be really bad. But they're generally weaker trash bags. They just are.
Yes. But it's not only trash bags, it's chip bags, cracker bags, any kind of food bags.
Plastic.
They break easily. So I am so anal retentive when it comes to opening a plastic bag of like crackers or whatever.
You mean instead of opening it like a child?
like ripping all the way down the side, down to the bottom. Yes, I like it very perfectly ripped just on the top seam. Okay, go ahead and try that with any bag in Spain. I dare you.
And we got used to it in Ecuador. We were like, Ecuador.
I guess, but it seems like here, there's no way that you can open it just on the top seam of that plastic bag. And because it's very, very recycled, this plastic, so it's thinner, and you try very carefully to open it on the top, and inevitably it splits down the side. Drives me nuts. But
what's good about that?
They're using recycled plastic. So
yep,
I'm here for it.
I am also here for it and there for it.
Here and there, everywhere for it.
Yes.
Okay. Another difference here in Spain is lack of coffee options.
Oh, this is big for me.
Oh, shut up.
Ooh, we haven't mentioned this yet? I can't believe it.
Oh, what a jerk. So, in the States and in Ecuador, I will say too, because they had the same kind of chain. They didn't have Starbucks, but they had...
Wanderers.
Okay, so they had some coffee chains that were just like Starbucks, where you can go get your frou-frou drinks, like all kinds of flavors, the syrups, all kinds of stuff. Do you want it iced?
Jen,
Do you want hot?
Did they have pumpkin spice lattes?
Absolutely, they did. But they weren't the Starbucks pumpkin spice lattes, so they were different. No, they had all the flavors and the whipped cream and, iced hot or blended, all the options. And the non-coffee options as well, like different kinds of teas and all kinds of stuff. Here, your coffee options are, and I don't even know all the names of them because I only order literally one thing every time I go, and it is a café con leche, and it's basically like a small latte. It's espresso and hot milk with some like espuma on top, frothed milk on top. But other people will just get Espresso. What?
Corto.
Yes, which is just espresso. And maybe espresso with water, like an Americano. But I don't see that very often. Because here, it's only very small containers for coffee. Small. It's wild if you compare it to Starbucks.
And very rarely are you going to see someone walking around with what's the tall one? Not Venti?
Venti, yeah. Oh, never. If you see a to-go container here, which you will every now and then, it's very small. It's like the size of a Starbucks tall. It's probably the biggest size to-go coffee cup that you would get here. Now, I will say there is a Starbucks in the city, but I think there's only one.
I have no idea.
I've never actually been to it.
Should we go?
Oh my gosh. It's not pumpkin spice latte season, so no. Also, iced coffee here, like you can order it. Go ahead. Feel free. But you will order your café con leche, con una taza, con hielo. So it's all separated. So out comes your mug of hot coffee and milk. Out comes a glass with ice. You pour it over the ice yourself. And there's an art to it because there's no like lip on the mug to pour it. So it wants to pour down the side of the mug. So you have to go fast. You have to commit.
I'm falling asleep. I'm sorry.
Okay. You need some coffee. I'll go make you some.
No.
Okay. Well, take it away with the next one because you're going to really resonate with this next one too.
There's no Target.
Oh my gosh. How do we live?
And there are Target-like stores here. So it's not a big deal as far as having the majority of your shopping being able to be done in one location.
But it's not as common. Like we have to there's a bit of a drive to get to these places for us anyway. We don't live near any of them. So mostly it's like separated out. Like you go to the grocery store for your groceries. You might even go to like the meat store for your meat, the fish store for your fish, and then the appliance store for your appliances, the pharmacy for any of that stuff. So I would imagine people not liking that if you're not used to that. So how is that a good thing for us?
I don't do a Target run and get all sorts of random stuff.
Yes, because you're the one who does that. I would say this is more of a problem for me. But when I go to a place like Target, I am more tempted to spend more money because everything is just right at my fingertips. So I definitely have to put more effort into going to all the separate places to get stuff I want. And there's never a time where I'm like, oh, well, it's just right here, so I might as well get it because it's not right there because it's going to be at a different store. I'm going to choose to see that as a good thing.
Because Spanish culture does not generally focus on driving, there are not often huge parking lots, which is great because guess what? There's more space for parks and actual housing and
pedestrians to walk.
All sorts of things like that as opposed to car-centric culture.
Right. And coming from the States and driving here, you might be annoyed because it's like, well, parking it's a hassle. When I have my car, it's a hassle to find a spot. I might have to pay for it, this and that. But we choose to be thankful for that because it does allow space for all these other good things that Steve mentioned. Another difference here in Spain that I've noticed, and I'm still working on this one a little bit, not that I get breakfast food a lot when I go out to eat, but it's not really a thing. You have to go to maybe places in the city that are definitely geared more towards tourists to get maybe what I would consider traditional breakfast foods like omelets, pancakes, biscuits. Waffles, yeah. I mean, we still don't really understand the meal times, to be honest with you.
We've probably mentioned it in previous episodes.
Oh, we definitely have. But breakfast, I don't even know if it exists.
I don't know if food is consumed at breakfast. It
Almuerzo definitely happens, and it happens at a time where you would think it's brunch. But almuerzo is not what I would think of as breakfast foods. It's tostadas. That's what I see mostly. So like a halved baguette toasted with maybe olive oil and tomatoes or olive oil and jamon.
But that is their breakfast food.
I guess. But then it's not called desayuno. So no. I don't know.
There's no tigrillo here.
That is the thing. One of the things that I miss most about Ecuador is tigrillo. It is basically like plantains with like a fried egg on the top. And sometimes there are little bits of, I don't know, some kind of pork or something. Chicharron or something. I don't know.
There's all sorts of things in there that I don't know.
That's the truth. I mean, it was tasty. Could I tell you exactly what was in it? No. But I loved tigrillo from Ecuador and I miss it. So whenever I'm back in Ecuador, I'm going to be ordering some of that. You better believe.
Doors.
Okay. Good segue. Good segue.
The doors don't have handles.
The doors here are weird.
I'm talking about the house. You go out on the porch. You can't shut the door and get back in.
Well, that's ours, but I don't know if that's common in other places.
The front door doesn't have a handle that you turn.
Well, all of our sliding glass doors to our balconies, there's a handle on the inside, but then you go outside to shut it, there's no handle. And if you, like, put your palm flat against the glass and slide it shut when you're on the outside, and it happens to click all the way shut, you're completely locked out.
Yes. I'm not sure why we're mentioning this because I can't see a good thing from that.
The good thing about the doors, shoot. Just to be more careful in life.
Oh my gosh,
that one's just a weird one.
It is weird because I have been told, I had suggested it, but I've also been told by Jen now to put duct tape handles on the outsides of some of the doors so that you can kind of close them and then still open them from the outside.
I know, the aesthetics on that. Can you imagine how beautiful that is? I don't even care. Just give me something that gives me some grip to be able to pull the door open every time I hang dry the clothes up on the roof.
Which is a good thing.
Yes. The door inevitably slams shut because there's a breeze. There's always a breeze here. And it startles me, first of all. I'm like, "Wah!" But it's not, I don't get locked out up there. It's not a sliding glass door. How would that slam shut? But it's very tricky. I have to get my fingertips underneath the edge of the door to open it. And then I have to be careful that I don't crack my knuckles on the side of the door frame as I'm gingerly opening it. Just put some duct tape on there. Give me a little handle. I don't even care what it looks like.
I'll tell you what's good about it.
Okay, good.
Not the duct tape handle. It's that it is a level of security. People aren't going to break in as easily. There's nothing to jimmy. There's no handle to slide open. It just locks. You shut the door, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Fun story. This happens not just to us, but to our neighbors too. Specifically when we were in the apartment, our neighbor accidentally locked himself out of his house.
Yeah.
Not once, but twice.
We were only in that apartment for 6 months, and he locked himself out 2 times.
Now, why would we know about this? Because in that particular place, on the 3rd story, the houses were kind of connected by the roof.
Right.
You could hop from one rooftop patio across the roof to the next rooftop patio. So we were in the same kind of block as his place, and he knew us. So he came to our door, and he's like, "Hey, I locked myself out. Can you let me in and go up to your roof and then get to my place?"
Because he probably, leaves the door to his rooftop unlocked. The security here in Valencia area, and it's certainly out in the Pueblos, which is all we've experienced, it's pretty safe. I'm not saying just leave your stuff unlocked all the time, but I can say this now that we're out of the apartment. We never locked that door up there. Ever.
And it had lots of deadbolts and things.
Oh, yeah. And, any one of our neighbors could have just walked over and come into our apartment. Now that I'm saying this out loud, I feel like we should have locked it. But anyway, we didn't. And apparently he didn't either, because he was able to just waltz across on the rooftop over to his patio, hop down, enter his door, and get into his apartment.
Yep.
All right, next up, we have going out to eat. We've talked a little bit about this, but something that might annoy people from the States is that meal times are very long here. They are not rushed. Also, the wait staff does not come and check up on you. Like, "Oh, do you need anything else? Or would you like something else? Or do you need a refill?" No, not at all. Also, they will not bring you your bill. But we have learned that you just have to ask. You have to get their attention.
It's crazy, really, when you think about it.
I know.
wait, I just ask for it and that's when I get it?
Yeah, I think in the States, you're just used to sitting back and they just come to you. You get used to it. So that might be an annoyance coming here. But you just learn very quickly. You have to raise your hand. You have to be a little assertive, which is a little bit difficult for me when I'm out because I don't ever want to come across as rude. And it's not rude here. You just have to do it. So I'm getting used to that. But the good thing is it's not a bad thing. It's just an adjustment. As we're recording right now, our ceiling fan is on. This is my segue into the next point. And I was like,
make sure you tell people you're segueing into the next point.
Shut up. So I was like, oh, Steve, we can't have the ceiling fan on. It's going to cause noise in the recording and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, we have to put it on. It is so hot because segue.
What?
Steve is so annoyed at me. Because while we do have some air conditioning units in this house, it is full summer here and we haven't turned them on yet for a couple of reasons. We know
it's expensive.
It's super expensive. Also,
number one.
We happen to live in an incredibly inefficient house. It's very open. So we know that it's not even going to be efficient to use the air conditioning units. And also, it is not the culture here to use air conditioning. You just open your house up on either end and you let the breeze flow on through.
Yep.
So what's the good thing here?
It's good for the earth.
We're using less energy. I can't imagine using air conditioning units is helping the environment.
Probably not.
And we get fresh air. Now, I will say, occasionally some cigarette smoke wafts through because, we have neighbors and people are out walking and smoking the ciggies.
They do that.
You just let it waft through, continue on with your day, clears out pretty quickly. But otherwise, living here, there's almost always a nice breeze. I don't know if that's because we're close to the coast, probably. But anyway, I'll take it. So if we open up our house on either end, it's so far so good. We have not been living in this house in the really hot months of July and August. So I guess to be determined. But it's especially hot right now because we're recording. So we have our bedroom door shut. We have our sliding glass door shut to our balcony. So we had to at least have the ceiling fan on.
Which I installed.
Way to go, Steve. Such a good thing.
So I don't know what they were doing before.
I don't know. Just burning. Anyway. But speaking of that, another thing that they do use here.
Are refrigerators.
No. No, not yet. Not yet. Are blackout blinds, also called persianos. Is it OS or AS? I think it's OS.
No idea.
Anyway, this might be annoying to people who don't live around here because just fiddling with them maybe, but also the aesthetic from the outside, I don't think people from the States would love the way they look from the outside. But they serve a purpose here. And not only do they give you a nice dark room to sleep in at night, which we know the sleep research tells us that you should sleep in a nice, dark, cool room.
I can sleep just about anywhere.
Okay.
Memphis fell asleep with all the lights on yesterday. It's fine.
Yeah. But also, sometimes you use them just to block out the sun if it's like directly hitting the window so that it doesn't heat up the room. So close the blinds, block the sun, keep the room cooler. Okay, now we can talk about refrigerators.
They're smaller.
Or appliances in general here. Like washers tend to be smaller.
Yeah, the fridge is enough. Mm-hmm. You have a small freezer, you have a small fridge. It works. It's totally fine. Because with the proximity of grocery stores, specifically the market that's literally just around the corner from us, that's your refrigerator. Right. That's your pantry.
Right. And that's the perspective shift that we've had to have is, okay, we just aren't storing all the stuff here in our home. We're storing our stuff at the store that's just down the street. All we have to do is go get it.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
When we need it.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely a cultural thing here is when you grocery shop, you don't have huge carts stocking up for the next 2 weeks. You buy a couple of things maybe for today and tomorrow. which we still don't do. Not exactly. We tend to stock up a little bit more than that, but we certainly don't have the kind of full carts that we ever used to have when we lived in the States or Ecuador.
Ecuador would stock up.
Well, because we just took a taxi home and they bagged it. Like, they put the bags in the trunk. They unloaded the bags straight onto my porch. I mean, that was pretty sweet, but it's different here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But also the snack culture here is different. First of all, you go to a grocery store and there aren't a ton of options for snacks, not like in the States. So we've adjusted to, I think we were already doing this in Ecuador, honestly. We didn't snack as much. We just didn't, because there weren't as many options.
Yeah, but they have some chips that I like here. More like Fritos.
Barbacoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll eat that snack.
Yes. But that's like it.
And their other regular potato chips are good.
Yeah, potato chips. That's like the snack. Potato chips.
And olives is a snack here.
You can get jamon flavored potato chips here. I don't think we've actually tried those yet.
Don't need to.
Yeah. I mean, why get jamon flavored potato chips when you can just get jamon and it's great? I don't know.
So something that's different that I'm not sure how I'm going to say is good is they really only use this thing called B-Zoom.
It is good. Isn't it good? It's good.
Yeah, but you have to have a Spanish bank to do it, and you have to have a certain, you have to have your NIE because we couldn't use it before. So so you can't do this person-to-person transfer without B-Zoom.
Yes. So there's there probably is Venmo, but people just don't really use it here.
There is all the PayPal, but they don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in the States, we have like 5 million ways to transfer money instantly, basically. None of which they use here. So B-Zoom, what's good about it, I think, is it is incredibly easy to use as long as you have a Spanish bank account. And you have your number, it's kind of like a social security number, if I were to compare it to something, for Spain. And you have the telephone number of the person you want to send money to, or vice versa. And it goes from your bank account into their bank account. So there's no third party, like, holding place. Like Venmo, it holds it inside of Venmo until you say, like, okay, I want you to transfer it to the bank account. And you have to have your bank account connected to it and yada, yada. So I do think, like, if you are established here with your, ducks in a row, B-Zoom is actually better. But speaking of money transfers and stuff like that, let's talk about our phones and how we have done cell phone plans here. It's not like an automatic, it takes it out of our bank account every month kind of situation. What do we do, Steve?
No, this is sometimes confusing. I'm still confused. I'm currently confused about what the messages are. We go with the prepaid plan, kind of on a monthly basis, but it's 4 weeks at a time. It is the cheapest plan. I actually was in the Movistar with them, and they asked me if I wanted to start a plan. I said, no, it's more expensive. And they not even tried anything to rebut that, to refute that. Nothing. Just understood.
Yeah.
Entendido.
Yeah. Well, we pay 10 euros a month for each of our phones. So 10 for mine, 10 for Steve. And we have so much data, we never even use it all. I mean, we could be streaming. We could just be out at the park watching Netflix.
Pretty much nonstop the whole month and never get to our limit.
But I think people might see that as an annoyance, like, because what we have to do to pay for our cell phone.
Yeah, we have to go to an ATM once a month or once every 4 weeks and pay it. Yeah,
you pay it through basically any ATM that you come across. You can probably pay for your cell phone plan. So I say plan. It's not really a plan. It's month to month. So you just go up and you charge 10 euros to your phone and you put in your phone number and it takes effect immediately. You keep your number and you're on your merry way.
These are the really good things. While I'm still confused.
Well, we're confused because every time we pay, we get a message saying it's all in Spanish. So we're like just trying to, interpret it. we get a message saying like, great job. You've put 10 euros on your, prepago, whatever. But then like 10 minutes later, it gives us a message like, your account has been exhausted, meaning like it's out. Like there's no money left on your account. We're
it's
like,
confusing,
what?
but
10 minutes ago, we just put money on this account and it's working and our phones work for the next 4 weeks.
And we have gone where it stops working. So they do cut you off and then you just go pay your 10 euros and you're back on.
Right.
But I don't understand the messages that they're sending me. And it's not because it's in Castellano.
So if anyone listening knows anything about Movistar in Spain for the prepaid plans, you go ahead and let us know.
Now, keep in mind, it could be done in an easier fashion if we set our phones to be in the Spanish region. We still have US-based phones.
Oh, that has been a little bit of a problem in some other areas too.
So we can't get certain apps to work, or we can't get the apps at all because they're not available in our region, which is the US. But we also don't want to lose access to the apps that we need to use from the US.
Right.
So it's good to learn things like this.
Sure.
Good to learn.
No, I think it's fine. We live in a pueblo that the ATM is right around the corner. It's super easy for us to re-up our phones. And because we are retired, it's not, a hassle. It's not a lot of extra work. I mean, gosh, it takes like 5 minutes maybe to walk over there and walk back.
Maybe 6.
Okay, sorry.
On a beautiful sunny day.
Exactly. Our little pueblo is bustling. One more thing that is probably pretty big difference between Spain and somewhere like the US is school hours. So our kids' school starts at 9:30 in the morning and it gets out at 4:30. And while you might think, oh my gosh, that's awful. It's so late in the morning, such a late start, or it's such a late pickup. You get home and you barely have time for dinner and then they're going to bed. We choose to see it as a good thing because the boys are able to get enough rest always. They can sleep in. So our boys wake up 8:15 every morning, which we think is great.
Yeah, that is great. It's also more sleep for us.
Yay! I mean, I get up at 8 or 8:15 every morning too. So all this to say, I hope you guys have enjoyed just hearing some of the differences that we're dealing with here in Spain. But we, of course, encourage you to find the good, even in those things that on first glance seem like annoyances. Because we are Red Weather Christians.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Jen. Remember, wherever you are, the States, Ecuador, Sweden, Italy, Australia, France, Spain, or the 22 other countries who it says on Spotify are listening.
Cheer the good!
Don't boo the bad.
And remember, wherever you are.
Oh, Steve. Oh my gosh.
You're
going to do it all over.
You're pointing to things and I'm reading. Gosh, I can't. But I said we are. No, did you say we are?
I'm going to say it.
I said we are, and you said Red Weather Christians.
I just said, we're encouraging you to find the good even those. He says...